In a studio that's in a basement comes the epic story of how two friends changed the future of the movie podcast game forever. The reviews are in. Boys Life magazine gives the High Sci podcast 4.5 acorns. The Daily Bugle says, these guys are super legit. And Pope Francis declares the podcast as life-affirming. From the kid who tried to get smart with David Spade and got fucking old.
You're still out. You're still bad.
And the guy who can name all four Baldwin brothers.
Alec, William, Daniel, and the baby boy, Stephen.
Live from the studio of his parents' basement. The Have You Seen It podcast.
Well, Mason, it's August. It's in the summer. What's right around the corner? You know, you feel it in the air. It's getting a little spooky out there. Anyway.
Yes, it is.
Everything's starting to change. It's getting a little scary out there for sure. We're in the dog days of summer. It's coming to an end. So what's more appropriate than to be reviewing a scary movie
In the
to
middle of
get
August.
us? Yeah, I know.
This is like a warm-up for what we're going to have in September and October.
That is my biggest gripe about this movie. Let's not name it yet.
Okay.
But one of my biggest gripes is that this movie was released on August 9th.
Strange time. Very strange time to be released.
Very odd, because this movie did get me pumped for Halloween. But
It did, didn't it?
what movie are we reviewing today on the Have You Seen It podcast, Mason?
Scary stories to tell in the dark.
Everyone's got a little history with scary stories to tell in the dark. I absolutely love, of course, based on the book written by Alvin Schwartz. And
Schwartz, not Schwarz.
no,
That's
not
an old throwback to the
Yes.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Uh-huh. But yeah, Alvin Schwartz, a guy who just got off on scaring kids, I'm guessing.
Weird thing to do, but I guess
But,
he liked doing it.
Yeah, of course, the books, they consisted of short stories that I guess it's a kid's book you could.
Yeah, they had these in schools.
They did, yeah.
For a long time.
And everyone, I mean, if you were born in the 90s, I feel like you'll know, but these books were horrifying. I mean, I loved them, but they were like this weird, like, enigma where, like, it felt like you're reading an adult book at a very young age. I mean, it had to do, there was a lot of murder, a lot of cannibalism.
Yeah, death.
A lot of death, yeah.
A lot of weird.
A lot of things that would definitely scare a kid. And it was the most challenged book of the 1990s. Could you believe that?
No, I can't.
This movie, a lot of people in the 90s, of course, in the 90s with the satanic panic and people blaming
Music and rock and
everything,
roll. Yeah, they were panicking.
Of course.
I remember that.
This was the number one book that people said they do not want in the library. And a lot of people fought it. And but I remember we had it in our school. I remember going and seeing it in my library and reading it.
Really?
Yeah, it was the illustrations. The illustrations by Stephen Gamel. That's probably everyone's gonna remember, but they were just horrifying. Just horrifying. I mean, it by no means should a kid read it, but I think it's almost like a rite of passage. Where like I'm gonna have to force my kids, like, sit down. You have to read these books.
Well, and as far as, like, you know, we talk about this being a children's book, technically.
Yeah.
I felt like this horror film overall was a good introduction to horror, where it wasn't like a rate, like, and I saw the same article on Cinema Blend, and I go, that's kind of what I was thinking after watching this movie. It's not like so gory and so grotesque that you're like, dang, this would be tough to take your kids to. This would be a horror film that I think you could.
I don't know, man. I thought it was
terrifying.
We'll get into it, but it was surprisingly scary for me.
Was.
You know, I was going into this, I was super worried because I love scary stories, and anything that you love, you don't want it to be shitty.
Yeah, you don't want it to be ruined.
Yeah,
by
you don't want
a
it to be
film
ruined because it
adaptation.
happens all the goddamn time.
It does.
So I
Too often.
was very nervous going into this, but I mean, we can just get into it, but I was very surprised by how scary it actually was and how good it actually was. I loved it, man. I didn't expect it to be set in the 60s. That was totally surprising
Yeah, that was
for
really
me.
cool.
But
a lot of movies being set in 1968 these days. Have you
60s are
noticed
hot
that?
right now.
Yeah, it's a hot
60s are
subject.
hot. It's hot right now.
And
for
it's
sure.
always when Nixon's running, too. Have you noticed that?
Well, 1968, man. He's
Yeah.
always running in
He's running for
1968.
69, yeah.
But
Nothing changes.
But yeah, so yeah, but I was surprised. Directed by Andre Overdahl. He is I think he's like Croatian. He's only done a few movies, or he's Norwegian.
And we got to talk about the big name associated with this, who was the producer, which we are big fans of.
This is what kept me hopeful for this movie. Yeah,
which is
Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah.
I mean, I will do anything that Guillermo does, even if he's just walking by the set one day. I will go and see that movie because, like, I feel like he is one of my favorite. We talk about directors nowadays, and he's not even a new director. He's been directing forever, but everything he does, I love, and
It's
you can
great.
tell his hands were definitely in this.
Totally, that's what. Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
it's something that I love and we talk about all the time. But the practical effects of this movie, I thought, were just amazing.
Awesome.
It was
I thought like the Scarecrow looked really good.
yeah, for sure, yeah. Harold looked amazing.
Harold.
And that's the thing. All the monsters looked great but they somehow they transferred the illustrations of the book, but they stayed faithful to that, where all the monsters look like the book.
Yeah.
But they somehow, because like when you're reading the book, you're thinking, oh, there's no way that they can make these into an actual monsters, but they do a really good job. And that was something that surprised me too, was how good all the monsters looked, and they're all scary.
Yeah.
Each one was
terrifying.
Each one was damn near
Man. Yeah. Each one was terrifying. I tell you
scarier
that
than
much.
the last. Yeah. But yeah, I thought Harold was particularly scary for sure. But yeah, again, I thought all the monsters looked amazing, and I was also I liked how it didn't end up feeling like it was all kind of linked together. I liked the story because I was going into this, because the book is obviously, it's an anthology. None of the stories are connected in any way.
Yeah.
So going into this, you're obviously, I at least was wondering, how are they going to connect it?
Connect all three together.
And they kind of did the Goosebumps method. I mean,
they did, yeah, where it's just storytelling.
But it worked for me.
It worked really well.
That's
yeah,
what I thought too.
I didn't think it was campy or anything. I was actually like,
it was
whoa.
more of an adult version, and I liked the element of the book, where a lot of the time with that, I think maybe it could be cheesy, but the way they did it, I thought it really worked out.
And a lot of things, like you think of the Nightmare on Elm Street, it's an impossible position to be in, because no matter what, you have to sleep. And they did the same thing with this. No matter what, you're going to die.
Yeah.
Like there was no quote unquote way out of it. So you felt helpless while watching this. Like it was almost inevitable that they were all going to die.
Again,
and that's something that they did really well.
But again, those stakes were very surprising to me. The amount of kids that die in this movie was very surprising.
I know, it was
to
dark.
me.
I liked it.
I have seen people say it is kind of like an introduction to horror films, but there was only 2 kids in my theater. And it was like some grandma brought her 2 kids, and maybe they like convinced her, like, let's go see scary stories.
You want to hear my story?
Oh,
I
yeah,
have
you got
an
a story.
atrocious movie theater experience. So I went and saw the movie last night. And there's about 40 people in the theater, but majority of people buy middle seats, right? And I bought a centered seat. So I'm walking through these guys, and I'm not even making eye contact or anything with the people above, because they have their feet up on my chair. Don't look at them or anything. I'm like 5 chairs away. Don't look or anything. They both take their feet down, so I assume, okay, that means I can sit in my spot, the ticket that I bought. So I sit down. The lady behind me with her boyfriend instantly is mad. She's like, well, great, now I can't put my feet up. Being a, was
there other seats in the theater?
I'm not kidding. No one was to the left of them. They could have moved over 2 seats and they would have been fine. Okay, and her boyfriend's saying that. I can listen to the whole thing. She's being allowed, and he's like, we can just move. It's not a big deal. Let's just move down. She was I don't understand it. She's being really rude, right? She kicks my seat. She goes, oh, sorry. I don't turn around. I don't do anything, dude, because, I'm just there. I'm trying to enjoy a movie. She's arguing with him, and she goes, whatever. And she gets up about 5 minutes later, and I swear to you, dude, it was like someone went like this and kicked the back of my seat as hard as they could. I'm not kidding. I flew forward.
Was she an older lady?
No, it was a young couple, but even the boyfriend was on my side at the end. He was fucking embarrassed. And she hits my seat really hard and walks down. She's sitting down there. The boyfriend's behind me. I didn't even turn to look at her, because I know if I turn to look, I'm going to look at the boyfriend and be like, okay, you need to fucking deal with that, right? So I don't turn around. I trust my better instincts, and I can hear the boyfriend mutter. He's like, so fucking embarrassing. He ended up sitting behind me the entire movie while his girlfriend moved 6 rows down or 6 seats down.
You should have sat. You should have moved back and sat with him.
Sat with him. I should have, and then I
Just
should have
been all
introduced
over
myself
him.
and been like, yeah. But yeah, man, I could not believe that. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Is this really happening right now? So
believe it.
obviously, don't sit in front of people, even though everyone's sitting in front of each other. I didn't think it was a big deal.
No, don't do that.
I'm not gonna move all the way down and sit on an end chair because you want to put your feet up. You're not entitled to that. You know, I mean, fuck you.
Hey, yeah.
Fuck you. You know, period.
I agree.
So shout out to that girl.
Yeah, hopefully she's listening. Did you give her a card?
I did. I gave them both a card.
You did?
Yeah. So I hope you're listening. Seriously.
Why would you? What'd she say when you gave her a card?
No, I didn't give her a card. No, of course I didn't. God.
You should have. You
I should have. I should have. And then
said,
I should have
just
been
wait.
like,
I'm
come
good.
on.
Yeah.
But you should listen to the next episode.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it.
I think you'll enjoy that review where we dive real in depth.
Yeah.
But with characters too, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, so you had an experience, unfortunately. That's not good. I never have those kind of crazy experience. Every once in a while.
Every so often.
You go
Weren't
in public.
You with me with the Apple one though?
No, I wasn't.
Oh, you
It
weren't?
was you and Michael.
Oh, that's right.
Yep.
That's right.
No. People avoid
Damn.
that.
Yeah, they do.
It's a good thing because I'll fucking blow up. My
You
God.
freak
dude.
out. You won't handle that.
I'm paying for a movie.
You
No.
expect to watch it.
Yes, I expect not to be annoyed either. I'm paying the same amount that lady is.
No joke.
But yeah, so you had an equally scary experience as well as
Yeah, and if I didn't hear that guy mutter behind me that she was fucking embarrassing, you got to wonder, like, how if she's that mad, you got to wonder how mad he would have been. You know, I could have been scared that whole movie, thinking that guy could have shanked me in the neck for no reason.
you could have gotten a shank. You gotta watch out for.
You gotta watch out for people, man. You don't know. It's a scary times we live in.
But yeah. Well, let's get again, I can't believe this movie was released in August. It's set in Halloween even, which surprised me, which made it fucking awesome because this movie is going to be a perfect Halloween movie that you're going to watch kind of every year. It's made its way. I mean, that's where at least I think as good as it where it's made its way into the rotation, I think. It's perfect, man. And it's set in Pennsylvania. It's 1968. It's honestly one of the better fucking Halloween movies. It really is, dude. And the way they did it too, you gotta give it a hat off. They made it feel like a 1968 little farm town. I mean, they did a really good job, I thought, with the cars and everything. I thought they did a pretty damn good job. Well, let's bust into it. Let's talk about the bully in it, because I gotta take my hat off to this guy. He plays a great fucking bully because this guy was annoying me in the theater.
Yeah, he was.
He was just
a little
annoying
pesky
looking.
son of a bitch.
Just the way he fucking stuck his head like into the guy's window.
The actor's name is Austin Abrams, if you want to know.
He was the perfect 1968 bully. My God, Letterman Jack
just
signed up for the fucking.
Of course,
he
got a baseball bat.
voluntarily
Really?
signs up for Vietnam. Right at the start.
Oh, God,
Like,
you're gonna
you
regret
get
that one,
drafted.
man.
Yeah, well, take your time, man. I know. He's immediately. I love that. Just come because that's how we open it up. Is because it's Mill Valley is the town. It's a little tiny town in Pennsylvania, and we open up 1968. It's Halloween night, man. Just seeing Halloween night, it takes you back, doesn't it? Back when you used to just go around with your friends causing all kinds of trouble. I mean,
definitely.
You didn't have a sweet
trick-or-treating until 9 and then causing mischief until 1.
We didn't have a sweet Pontiac like everyone had in 1968.
Yeah, what was that
unfortunately.
with?
I don't know.
Yeah, everyone's driving nice cars. I'm like, fuck.
That's when we could afford it, man. You could be a waitress and still afford a brand
Brand new car. Yeah, you can't do that these days. No, sir.
God, no, you
Not
can't even
with
afford
inflation.
rent. Yeah.
No.
But yeah, so it's 1968, and we get the bully, and what's the boy's name in this?
Tommy Milner.
Tommy, man. Every bully in 1960s was named Tom.
Tommy. Yeah, Tommy or Tom, yeah.
But this guy, I mean, he's just so goofy looking. He's just a fucking mouth breather. Mouth wide open.
And and of course he's always trying to show off in front of his friends and his girlfriend.
Big fucking
like,
teeth, but
really?
man, he is annoying. But well, we get that, and then we circle in on the main character of this, and it's Stella. It's kind of your stereotypical nerds, right?
Yep.
They're super into Halloween. They're kind of older. They're like 17, right? I think they're all seniors in this.
No, not the younger kids. The younger kids are younger than them. They're 2 years younger, so I think they're sophomores.
The younger kids are younger than the. Did they say that? They're
Yeah,
younger than
they're a
boys?
few years younger than the high school kid. Than Tommy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Tommy's older. He's like 2 or 3 years older.
Yeah.
Because remember, there was a narration in the beginning when he was stealing the the candy. He's like, "Yeah, Tommy's a dick. He's like 2 years older than us."
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't remember that, but yeah, okay. So they're like sophomores, so still kind of getting up there for trick or treating. But yeah, and they're big nerds. It's Stella and her friends Augie and Chuck. Augie is the typical kind of the comic relief, right? And
Yep.
then Chuck is kind of a taller, goofier guy, and he's dressed up as like a clown from like an old Italian play that no one gets. It's very nerdy. It's the typical kind of nerdy group, but they get some revenge on Tommy because apparently Tommy every Halloween
Gives him shit.
because right after Tommy gets out of the army recruitment, he's high fiving his guys, talking about killing commies. 1968 shit.
Oh, yeah.
Just what every kid was kind of talking about. He says, "Let's go start some trouble," and they go. He flies in the fucking Pontiac Classic, pulls out, and they're cruising around.
Well, we got to talk about this beforehand too, which is a good setup in the scene when the sister's walking up the stairs and he's fishing out turds out of the toilet. And she's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Nothing. Don't worry
Yeah.
about it." And he slams the door, and you're like, "What is he doing?" And you're like, "Of course,
Oh yeah,
that iconic
disgusting
poop in a
Uh-huh.
paper bag, lighted on fire kind of thing." So
Yeah.
he's been planning this for a while.
Oh yeah,
This
for
whole
sure. Oh, yeah.
revenge on Tommy thing. And sure enough, he knows Tommy's going to steal his trick-or-treating candy.
Yeah,
He drives right on down, and what happens?
and the comedy worked for me in this movie. I laughed quite a bit.
Yeah,
I laughed
so
when I
did
was
I.
supposed to. A lot. I mean, a lot of the time for these like a group kind of kids, I mean, a lot of the time the comedy feels kind of lame. I think, but I think it worked for me. I thought Augie was pretty funny. I haven't seen him in much, but I thought that kid was hilarious, and even his timely death I thought was very scary. But the fact that the book uses your fears against you, I thought was a nice touch for the book. How
Mhm.
they did the cheesy line where it's like, "We're not reading the book; the book's
The
reading
book's
us,"
reading
which
you.
was-
Yeah, that was me.
But
that
you
was the
knew
one
it was
part where
coming.
I was like,
You knew it was
"Uh,
coming for sure. You knew they had to say it because I mean,
Of course.
it's bait. You got to take it for sure. But I liked that whole element of the book and how he was using their fears against them. It kind of made it a little more scarier for
It
sure.
did.
But yeah, so they get revenge, and we kind of get into all their lives. We didn't talk about that, but the main girl, Stella, and her mom left not that long ago.
Mhm.
They
And
just
now
hit
she's
the
living
road.
with Dad, who works too much
Yeah,
to
because
kind of mask the pain.
Dad is a little bitter that his wife walked out on him.
Not the happiest.
Kind of reversed the roles in 1960s. I'm sure it was usually the man.
Yeah, that left. I would say 99 out of 100 times
Yeah.
it was the man.
But I
who
guess
left.
mom
Yeah.
went out for cigarettes and
Never came home.
never came back.
Once
And
started fresh.
and
Probably
Stella-
a friend from the hiking
Oh yeah.
group.
No, it was definitely her like tennis instructor or something. That's who
Mhm.
everyone was fucking in the
In the
60s.
60s, yeah, for sure.
You do not let your wife go work out with anyone.
Never.
Because,
Never a good idea.
but yeah, and Stella, she kind of thinks it's her fault that her mom left her, and that's kind of what the town, because the town it's a small town, so
Mhm.
everyone talks about everything. So when a mom leaves, that's big fucking news.
Oh, yeah.
Even in our town, people would be gossiping about that shit. But yeah, so she kind of feels like it's her fault that her mom left, and that kind of plays a role later into the film, right? But yeah, and her dad, and also she doesn't like leaving her dad because she thinks that her dad's always thinking that she's gonna leave next.
Yep.
Because if she leaves next, her dad's got no one left.
He won't have much. I think at that point it's the old shotgun to the dome. if
Yeah,
you know.
you gotta
that's
really-
a sad ending for that man.
But yeah, so they get revenge on Tommy. It ends up working. One of the kids ends up damn near eating old Augie's shit.
And then he lights the bag on fire and throws
Yeah,
it
no,
in his
that's what I
car.
thought was crazy. I'm like, all right, you kind of got him. Now you're kind of like in danger.
You know what
But
I
again, the
originally thought? I
60s.
thought maybe when you lit the bag on fire, I'm like, man, are they gonna go dark here immediately and just have the car go into flames? It didn't happen.
That'd be much more dark.
It would have been real dark.
Not really following the
Story
story,
at all,
but like,
yeah.
just adding a whole nother element, I guess. But yeah, that'd be a dark start for sure. And the kids are just on the run for murder the rest of the story.
That's when they find the book at the abandoned house. They're like, fuck, now we're doubly fucked. We got a demon and the popo on us.
But yeah, and they end up causing Tommy to wreck his car into a house.
That's never
Again,
a good thing.
1960s, you could do that stuff and just fucking
You
walk
could.
away. Be like, all right,
Well,
I'll
yeah,
see
at
you
the
later.
At the one point, Tommy pulls up with his, and I know this is later, but he pulls up with his mom, and she's like, "You're drunk, aren't you?" She's like, "Grab the eggs anyway."
Oh, they don't give a
Oh,
fuck.
they don't care.
Yeah.
It was 1968, man. They don't care about anything.
It's a farm town. Worst that's going to happen, you're going to run into a field or something. Or run into a kid.
A kid.
It's
running around in
Halloween.
the
You
car.
probably shouldn't be drunk.
No, definitely not.
But yeah. But again,
Irresponsible.
the 60s, I don't think they even had DUIs back then.
No, I don't
You
think that was a
really
thing.
gotta be
I think it might have been a ticket.
And that's what I liked about this movie, unjokingly, is they feel like they really, I mean, it did feel like the 60s, you know? I mean, it felt like, even with the cops and everything, you know, the cops just telling kids, in the 60s, if a kid came up to a cop at any time, no matter what it was, the cop would just tell him to go on, like, quit messing around. No matter what you're saying, your parents beating you, someone's murdering someone, the cop's just gonna turn your way. Kids had zero liability back then. No one believed him for anything.
Different world, different time.
But yeah, so Tommy wrecks his fucking car. Tommy's pissed. He knows immediately almost who it is. And the kids run away. They end up going to a drive-in theater. Oh man, nothing says 1960s like a drive-in theater.
I miss those. I wish those were still around. Because I'd go.
There's
to
a few in Oregon.
Yeah, there are.
There's a couple you gotta drive into, but yeah, they hide out and they run into Ramon, a drifter, which
is so strange because he's still in high school, isn't he?
Well, he's at least 18 because he got
drafted.
so he's probably not in high school. I don't think they drafted high schoolers.
Oh, okay.
It was a shitty time. I don't think it was that shitty.
Yeah.
We're like,
Not yet.
I was just in geometry, but of course
Well,
they
but it was
didn't wait.
Or no, it was Halloween. Never mind. Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't know that. All we know is Ramon is a drifter, and you know what better car to jump into than a strange drifter that you just
Some random guy you just met. I mean, it's better than getting the shit kicked out of you by Tommy.
I
With
don't
that
know,
bat.
man. You either get murdered by the drifter. It was the late 1960s. They're gearing up for that.
Roll the dice,
Roll
my
those
friend.
dice.
You got to roll them. That's all you got to do.
You're either getting stabbed, getting the shit stabbed out of you by the drifter, or you're getting the shit beat out of you by Tommy. And Tommy could kill you too.
Definitely can. Probably will.
But yes, but they hide out in Ramon's car, and they get away from Tommy.
Mm-hmm.
Tommy finds him, but the drive-in theater owner, I guess, told him to get the fuck out. I don't know.
'cause
who
people
that
were
guy was.
eventually like, "Get out of the way!" It's like there's cars in front. He's coming down. It's not like you can't see the screen. Didn't make a lot of sense, but what can you do?
That's true. And they get away, and but Tommy says something, and this is a great scene with Tommy. The guy who played Tommy was great, man. But the way he just poked his head into the car and whatever, and was telling him to get out, I thought was kind of tense.
Yeah, it was.
I felt
It was a
scared for
tense
this,
scene.
because bullies back then, they'll just kill you. I think that's just how it went. But yeah, because I think Tommy was gonna beat the shit out of him with the bat. Even Stella, the girl.
Yeah, no, he
He
it
had
wasn't.
no restraint for. But eventually, Tommy goes. Well, eventually they end up leaving because, of course, Stella's this big, like, she knows all the folklore of the town, right? She's really into that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we get in her room. She has a bunch of horror posters and stuff like that. She wants to be like a writer or something, right?
Yep.
But she says, "Hey, why not go to a creepy house? Why the fuck not?"
I mean, that'd be
It's
a fun place
Halloween.
to go. She just met this brand new boy. She wants to take him to a haunted
That's
house.
true.
Never, you know how those things go.
Absolutely. And they go to what was the name of the family of the house that they go to?
Her name was Sarah.
Sarah Bella. They go to
Sarah
the
Bell.
Bella home, and the
Yep.
Bella home, there was like these the richest family in town, and they own a logging camp or something, and they founded the town. and they had this really big family, but they were really fucking weird, is what everyone in town said, right?
Well, yeah,
and
the,
this was
the
like
brother
18,
was a doctor.
yeah, and this was like
1880s.
1880s or something like that, yeah. So everything they know about the town is all like myth, you know, it's all hearsay and whatnot. But
The family made millions, or they were super rich because of the paper mill.
Exactly.
They were the first one to bring it in.
Yeah, and they built the town. They were like the founders of the town, and yeah, because the town was called Mill Valley, and it was named after their mill. But this family, this really rich, weird family, they kept their daughter for some reason locked up. That's all we get.
We never know why either.
Well, right at the start, she tells them that she was a danger somehow.
Yeah, she was different.
Because she was locked into the basement, and 2 kids came by, and those kids ended up dying later from hearing her stories. Because she's really good at telling stories, and that's how this is all intertwined. That's how we get the scary stories book. But yeah, and they say that people used to hang out at that. They used to go to that house during Halloween because it was haunted and whatnot. But then some kid ended up fucking dying, so they said they can't. They ended up
Went
boarding it up.
missing and never could find the body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what happened to that kid.
Yeah, neither
Well,
do
I'm
I.
guessing he just read a book and they ended up disappearing.
died,
Like everyone
yeah.
else. But yeah, so they go in the house and it's a big house, really fucking creepy. And these kids, though, are unbelievably brave. I mean, they
Super
obviously
brave.
haven't had the internet to know what is out there.
They have no
because I
concept
would
of
be going,
anything.
my mind would be going. I'd be like, why are we in here?
Well, yeah, there was no Ghost Adventures in 1968. They didn't know.
I know
what
the
was going on.
reality. I've seen those goddamn apparitions. They're out there. We know. Yeah, and we've heard all kinds of crazy stories, and we've read scary stories to tell in the dark, so we're scared of everything as a generation.
Totally.
But these people, they were all like, let's fucking do it, and not a single one of them was scared. Augie, Chuck, they were all right for it. And even Ramon was like, hell yeah, let's do it. But they go in there, they end up exploring, they end up finding a little secret room, the room that they held Sarah. And it's like a dungeon. It's a pretty shitty room.
Definitely, yeah. It looked like it was weird. It looked like the underground of like a Pirates of the Caribbean film.
Yeah, and it was like...
House was
it
nice, and then it was literally a dungeon, like a medieval dungeon.
Yeah, and it was behind like a fucking...
a fake kitchen shelf.
Yeah, like there were really no one did not want anyone in. But of course, that all ends up getting tied up at the very end. We end up finding out. But yeah, the family fucking hated Sarah. Oh my God, they hated her. She liked to tell stories. And in 1880, that wasn't a thing that women were supposed to do.
They were. I don't think they were even allowed to write back then.
No, I don't think so.
Unfortunately.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're going and they go into old Sarah's room and Stella. And it's the whole movie was shot really well. You know, it kind of had that Guillermo-esque style,
And it
but
was
of course-
tense too. Always tense. Like even at the jump scares, you knew they were always coming, but you didn't know when.
I know, and there was
you
a
know.
few good jump scares. Jump scares aren't my favorite thing. I don't think they make, but they were sprinkle in just well enough.
Just enough.
Not everything relied on a jump
Nope.
scare. And even when I expected them, it still fucking scared me. I jumped a few times, even
Well,
when I knew it was coming.
The pale lady scene was my favorite scene of this whole film.
It was mine too, and no one talks about
that
it.
wasn't a jump scare.
I love the pale lady scene too.
I've never had my spine tingle the
Yeah.
whole time because I'm not kidding, Cash. I've had dreams exactly like that where I'm running through.
Well, we'll
like
talk
this-
about that because that is exactly what is. I mean, everyone has had those dreams, but
oh
the
my
way they
God.
played it off, they
Yeah.
made it work very well, and it is the most scary thing because everyone has had those dreams where you just can't get away, and
Nope.
that's every dream. But yeah, I agree. The Pale Lady was one of my favorite too, and I haven't heard a lot of people talk about it.
I know, and it was crazy.
She
That was
one.
my I mean,
It
even
was
the way it was
very
shot, the
fucking scary, yeah.
cinematography, the colors. I was like,
The red
this is-
room using the red light was amazing.
It
yeah.
was.
But they end up. Stella eventually says she ends up saying, "Sarah, tell me a story," which big fucking mistake.
Never do that.
Oh my
Never
God!
do
You
that.
couldn't
You're in
whisper a
haunted mansion,
worse
don't
set of
do that.
words. You know specifically
You
this
might as
girl.
well be whispering, "Kill me now."
Yeah. Not only that, but she finds a book and she steals the book and she opens the book and it looks like it's written in blood. I mean,
Clearly, yeah, it's blood. I mean, it's real distinct between black
It's
ink
very
and
obvious blood,
blood, even
but,
red ink and blood. I mean,
different times, Mason. Different
I
times.
guess
And
so.
she says, "Well, this is mine now."
Again, she was rolling the dice.
She took that 5-finger discount and was like, "Sarah ain't using this book anymore."
Nope.
But it was a big deal because she immediately knew that it was Sarah's book and
Mm-hmm.
that's Sarah's stories, and that's what the girl's known for, telling her stories. And meanwhile, we flash back to what's old Tommy doing?
Well, Tommy's causing some mischief. He's upstairs. He locks him downstairs. He finds the house where they're at, and he locks him downstairs.
Finds him, and he's hanging out with Augie's sister.
He is Ruth.
Yeah, which is a classic bully move to go around and fuck your sister. I
mean,
that's the
Andy's
ultimate
a dick
bully.
To you? That's a double. That's a double.
It's the ultimate head game that guy's playing.
Yeah.
But
But
Tommy,
Ruth isn't falling for it. She's not digging this whole thing.
well, fuck, I want to be either. Tommy was literally gonna lock them in there and kill them.
Kill
just
them,
leave
yeah.
them to starve to
Hopefully
death.
you get out.
Yeah.
That's all he
Because
said.
and we know it's safe because no one's going around that goddamn house. So you would never think to look for kids there.
Never.
But Tommy ends up liking it. Ruth doesn't like it, so Tommy ends up kicking her down the goddamn stairs.
I know. What a shitty boyfriend.
Yeah, you could have fucking broke her goddamn neck. Tommy, think about these things.
And he locks her down there too. It's like, really?
Locks her down there, and before this happened, we didn't mention that Augie goes. I love the scene with Augie going into the closet and then coming out, and it's like a flashback. And that fucking scary old lady. Man, old ladies are just. They're used to be. They're either very cute or just horrible. What is about? What is it about?
I don't know. It's so strange.
Is it because they're on the borderline of death?
Or they too, in those horror films with kids.
Oh yeah,
like The Omen. It's terrifying.
But Augie, so he gets that, and then he's freaking out, the flashback he gets, he's in a red room, and it's the old lady standing, and the old lady kind of looks towards him.
Well, there's that dog too. Remember?
Yeah, the dog was Doberman or whatever it was also scared. But the lady says something, doesn't she say don't let her out or something like that? She says something along the lines of keeping old Sarah in. Eventually, though, Tommy does. He locks him in that basement, and Stella, she starts reading the stories while she's down there. Again, not a cool move, Stella. We got other things going on.
Yeah, you gotta think 2 steps ahead here. Can't be.
But
all
eventually,
about you.
someone lets him out of the house. Someone gives him a helping hand.
Something. It's
Sarah's
it's
ghost
the book.
hand.
Yep.
Yeah, the book is opened, and it's pretty much open season on this little small town, Mill Valley, and then it just starts. From here on out, it gets pretty fucking scary. Surprisingly
right
scary.
away.
We get Tommy. Tommy goes. We get flashback to Tommy. He's drunk as hell. He's been drinking all kinds of.
All night. After locking the kids in the basement, which he probably already forgot about because he's so drunk.
Oh yeah, and he gets hammered. He's celebrating. That's a sick fucking burn. If you're a bully, that's a good get.
Got him.
Yeah. But he gets drunk. He goes home. He lives on a farm. I gotta tell you that because
it comes into play.
It does come into play. His mom is mad he's drunk. Not mad that he's drunk and driving. Just mad that he's drunk. Mad he forgot. It. Well, just mad that he forgot to deliver those goddamn eggs to the neighbor.
That's right. You got to do that. You can't forget. Come on, you got responsibilities on the farm.
Tommy,
you got to do that before you get drunk. What are you
doing? Get in your car and drive.
Damn it, Tommy.
Goddamn...
Yeah, drive across the field and get it to him.
I don't care how drunk you are. You're gonna deliver those goddamn eggs. And
but instead, he decides to take the scenic route and walk.
Smart man. He's only gonna drink and drive so much. He's got a buy. There's got to be a line. Okay?
Yeah,
he's
there's
on
a
an
limit
animal.
there. Come on.
But he takes the long route, and we mentioned before this, he has a scarecrow or a scare man, I guess, on the property named Harold, and it's
and he's always hated it.
And it's the scariest fucking.
Looking, with bugs coming in and out of it.
But it looks like it was obviously made from a human skin.
It looks like human skin too. Yeah, it looks like old, shriveled up human
for
skin.
Sure.
Decaying.
It definitely looks like I've only seen a few dead bodies, and I've only seen a few dried up dead. But it looked definitely like I would be asking questions if I lived on a farm.
Yeah, I'd be like,
have we always had this?
Was this your Uncle Harold? Like, what the fuck?
Well, you definitely didn't buy that from a Sears Roebuck or anything. There's no way you're buying that from. But, and he's a dick to Harold. Never be a dick to your scary inanimate objects because they always end up killing you.
They do every
Dolls.
Time. Dolls do it quite often.
Dolls do.
It's actually alarming.
Yeah.
I would get rid of any dolls that you are unsure of in your house.
But, Tommy, he ends up pissing off the wrong scare man, and this is just the last time he had that opportunity.
And I like this, too, because it was... very, very creepy the way they did this, where it was like, boom, the scarecrow's there, and then he's still walking, he's drunk, and then he passes the scarecrow again. And he's like, hold on, what the fuck? He almost like second guesses there, and he's like, no, whatever. And he walks, and then the third time he sees the pole.
Oh
But
yeah,
there's no
and the
scarecrow.
pole's, yeah. Well, because it does a dream thing where he keeps walking, but he keeps
But he keeps
walking in a
walking
circle.
past it,
Yeah, he keeps
yeah.
walking in a circle. So he sees Harold and he's like, "What the fuck?" And he keeps walking, and then it gets fucking frightening because it makes you feel like it's just endless corn. So it makes you
Exactly.
feel like
yeah,
you're
that
at,
you're never gonna get
yeah.
to the end.
And then you're in this kind
You're
of
in a loop.
Yeah, exactly. And you're in fucking purgatory. And then which is the worst sign you want to see is an empty scare pole without the
scariest looking scarecrow of all time.
right there. I'm just dipping out into the
I'm
corn.
sprinting.
And
I'm
I'm running until I hit a
sprinting.
street. Yeah. Well, he does though. He runs.
die of a heart attack.
He runs, but he keeps hitting it, and eventually, he looks behind, and it is good. They did such a good job. Harold was very scary, because Harold in the books, it's the scariest book. It's the scariest story in the book for sure. He's a murdering fucking
Scarecrow. Yeah,
exactly.
what's scarier than that?
But yeah, and he ends up eventually. Well, Tommy eventually gets a pitchfork from Harold, and he tries to, but Harold's got he's
Nothing
just a
there.
stick.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
You got to think that one through.
And
Go
then-
for the head.
But
anything.
brutal, Harold just grabs a pitchfork and stabs him, and Tommy's death was horrifying. It was horrifying,
Especially
it
when he
was
starts
the s-
puking.
especially when he's got So he stumbles. He's been stabbed, but he's not bleeding. He's just immediately fucking.
Turning into like a giant weed.
Well, hay starts coming out of him,
Or
and
hay,
and he starts becoming a scarecrow himself. But it's how they did it was great. The way he was choking on the hay was horrifying.
And he's
and
trying to scream for his mom, and she can't hear him
because it's
she's
just hay,
still
and the
out
hay
there.
coming through his eyes and everything. It was fucking.
good.
Scary. It looked great. Yeah, and
Their special effects team did a really good job with that.
well, making practical effects, man, it's scarier, because it's real, and you could see and you can tell that it's real. When something's CGI, you don't always know it's CGI, but this felt like it was a guy in a goddamn costume, but it was really well done with how they did him having no torso or anything. It was just a stick, but and the way he moved too was horrifying. He didn't move like a human. He moved like he was made out of hay. But yeah, next we see of old Tommy, man. He takes the place of old Harold.
He
and
does.
Harold's got a new Letterman
And he's looking fresh. I mean, the other
he's
scare
looking
girl
like he
ladies,
looks. He's
they're
got a new
loving him.
face for sure, and
They're loving
he's looking pretty good. Yeah, and yeah, and that's the first death we get, and maybe the scariest death in my opinion.
Yeah, I think
At
it was
least maybe the most
deleted
painful.
Scenes, the deleted scenes. I think Harold went on a first date after that with that fresh new outfit.
Well, he hopped in the Pontiac.
He did,
He took a couple.
He
He,
took the
got
night
his
drive.
Letterman. You
you
gotta
got Mrs. Scarecrow. He's
you gotta
doing
go
good.
bird dog some chicks, hit the road, get a couple brews in you. And why the hell not? You got a new face. You're looking good. But yeah. And that night, Stella and Tommy's obviously dead.
He's not coming back.
No, he's not coming back from that.
R.I.P. Tommy.
And that's what I love. I also liked that about the movies too, is the deaths were permanent.
Yeah, they didn't come back.
Yeah, there was
except the very end.
a very end where they're opening it up to where,
Yeah.
but it ended where they could definitely do more. They opened it up, I think, where they could do a sequel for sure.
Oh,
You could
yeah.
leave it 100%. You can leave it alone, and it would be great.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be a good standalone. But they were setting up where they could definitely, because especially when she went and grabbed the books, there was multiple books on the shelf, so and there's multiple scary stories books, so there's plenty of fucking material to use. But yeah, I think they were setting it up for they could do a sequel for sure. But I don't think Tommy's coming back.
No,
in
he's
any
dead for
sequel.
sure. Well, you notice she brought up Augie and whatever to
Yeah.
bring back, but she did not bring up Tommy. I think Tommy's dead forever.
Even when she's yelling at the cops, she's like, "My two best friends." She
Yeah.
didn't bring up
She didn't-
Tommy. Like Tommy was
Doesn't
a
care.
dick, and no
Yeah.
one. That's
That
what
was the
happens
one
when you're a
kid that
dick, yeah.
disappeared. No one cared about.
Absolutely, but yeah, that night though, Stella has fucking Ramon again, the drifter they met an hour ago. Says, "Hey, you can stay at my house."
Yeah, I got a spare couch downstairs.
You wonder why there's so many goddamn murders in the 70s.
Well, that's why people are inviting people over they don't even know to come.
No
live
one
with
locking
them,
their
sleep with
doors.
them.
Everyone's hitchhiking. It's just a
Crazy
murderous
times, man.
paradise. But yeah,
So strange.
and the dad doesn't even know. Imagine waking up and you have this grown ass man in your house. It's
Start
not.
asking questions.
You start asking questions for
Right
sure.
away.
So Roman stays because Roman says he gives him a bull excuse like he's going somewhere. Oh, he's following the harvest. That was it. But yeah, and Roman eventually immediately starts going through all of her Stella's shit, which was I thought it was odd for sure. But they're looking at the book and a story starts being written in the book right in front of their face.
Mm-hmm. And that terrifies him because Ramon's
Yeah.
not buying, or he's not buying it at this point. You know, he's kind of like, "What? No, that's not actually happened. You're lying." And then the book opens up right in front of him,
Yeah.
and he goes, "Oh shit, this is real."
And a story that is personally my favorite story out of any of the scary stories. It's a story so ridiculous that I never imagined it would be put in a movie if they ever made a movie. Because you're reading the book, and we'll just say the story that's being written is the Big Doe.
Mhm.
And it's such an insane... Because the story in Scary Stories is this little creepy boy is out in the garden. He finds a big toe in the garden, plucks the toe. Immediately in the story, the kid's like, "This toe's gonna be delicious. I gotta get in the
Gotta
soup."
try to eat it.
Cannibal. The whole family's cannibal. Yeah, and they end up eating the toe and end up being haunted by the person whose toe it is. It's a wild trip of a story, man. I don't know how you think of that kind of stuff, but I never thought, because it's so. I mean, for one, of course, it didn't follow where it's on. Chuck didn't go end up picking the toe like out of the garden or anything, but he does.
No, but
end
I
up,
actually like this adaptation better as far as film because it made more sense that there was stew
yeah,
in the
you
fridge.
couldn't do him going and picking
Yeah.
and making it.
It's like,
'cause
oh,
that's
okay, I'm gonna
not-
eat this. You'd be like, what the fuck? This has nothing. Augie wouldn't do this.
No, absolutely not.
So yeah, I like how they switched it there. It made sense.
I liked it too, yeah. And but they see the book being written, and they see that the main character in the story, his name is Chuck or Charlie. Yeah, look at that creepy fucking kid.
Yeah, that's super creepy.
They don't even show the ghost in the story. They just show the kid, and the kid's not even supposed to be the scary part.
And the big toe too.
Yeah, and they show the big toe also. But look at that kid, dude. Those illustrations were horrifying.
Almost looks like a goblin creature.
Well, that's what all the illustrations were like surreal. They were like elongated. Like look at the ear and stuff. Crazy. But yes, and they try to warn Chuck, and of course Chuck is he ain't buying that shit.
No.
He's saying he's hungry, he's looking for food. He's got this fucking mystery stew in the fridge that he's just diving into, man.
Well, and they're trying to tell him, "Hey, dude, don't eat the stew. Don't eat it." And he's not having any of this.
Yeah, and it's not even
man's
it's not even like the phone's going out. They're telling him, and he's still
do not eat it. He's like, "Well, I don't know what to tell you, boss."
Yeah, I'm hungry. You gotta eat something. You
You
can't
do.
starve to death. But they attempt to warn him, and they're telling him the story, right? And they're just like, and they're explaining like, okay, you're gonna start hearing, "Where's my big toe?" Because that's the hook in the story. But he's not hearing it yet, so he's not believing it.
Yeah,
and he's
so-
still eating the goddamn stew. But then he gets a little crunch, a little something.
Something doesn't taste right. Something's a little.
Something tastes like a big toe.
Something's a little bigger here.
But yeah, and he ends up eating. Well, he ends up finding the toe, and he's freaking out. Obviously, he's not a big fan, as anyone would.
But he
you
didn't
find.
eat it. That was what was confusing. Remember, he pulled it back out of his mouth.
Well, yeah, but he took a chunk of it, and he was chewing on it for a while, which is enough for me. Which I mean, he was in his mouth for far too long, in my opinion.
I
He chewed. He
a
took a
big
couple
toe
bites.
in your mouth at any point is too long.
Yeah.
There's never a time where that's appropriate.
But eventually Chuck leaves. Look at this, man. Why is they messed up because it's not Augie.
No, it
that's
is
being-
Augie. The big toe is Augie.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, the blonde-haired, tall.
Oh,
lengthy,
yeah.
skinny
So I was
kid.
getting mixed up. Yeah. So Augie, he gets the toe. He's freaking out, and he starts hearing "Where's my big toe," which is also another red flag that you don't want to hear.
No, especially when they're predicting the future like that. You see the book, it's like, oh my god.
Especially after you just ate a big toe, and you
Yeah.
know this guy's specifically looking for me. You can't pin it on anyone else. So yeah, he goes, and this was a good scare too. I thought it was surprising. I thought how they did it, but he goes and hides in his bed, and eventually this horrifying monster ends up catching up to him. And
Well, here was the thing that I was thinking. I go, man, that monster's not that fast. You could almost run away. But he just locked, or he didn't even lock it. He just shut the door and went under the bed. It's like, what? You got to think that one through, kid.
well,
And
you
then
gotta
he,
think
like a half-ass attempt to try to get out
I
of
know,
the window.
but what would have happened? He probably opens the door and he's back in his room.
Probably.
It's
yeah,
probably
that's
that.
right.
I mean, that's
It's-
what
it's
happens.
just a
Yeah.
loop, yeah.
So I'm like, you could try. I mean, anyway, and these things like the only one that felt like it had real rules attached to it was the Jingle Jangle man at the very end. That was the only one I felt like you could run away from.
Yeah.
But yeah, he goes. Eventually, he hides because he is, and of course, he's petrified in fear. I mean, he's pissing himself. But he hides, and the way they did it was very good. Where they drew it out, where the tension was high. You know, it was gonna be a jump scare, and the way they did it, they made you think that it was gonna be on his bed or whatever. But
it made you think multiple times when you're looking to the left, you're looking to the right. You're like, it's gonna be there. It's gonna be there.
Exactly, because
when he comes up to look at the
and
bed,
it
it's gonna be there.
It goes for so long too,
Super
where I
long,
thought it was
yeah.
good. But
But
yeah,
I like the way that it ended though when he gets dragged.
I did too. Yeah, it
It's like
turns
he's
out
getting dragged to hell. You know,
the big toe monster was under the bed the entire time. Pretty fucking scary, in
terrifying.
my opinion. But
yeah, and his nail marks.
yeah.
God, those
Again,
were
that's the kind of
deep.
thing where I'm like, if you're a kid and seeing this, it's gonna fuck you up.
It's terrifying.
If you're under 13, I mean, anyone, but yeah.
You're checking under your bed.
Oh, yeah,
As a matter
for
of fact,
sure.
I just had my box spring laying on the ground
Well,
because
you're
I've been so
checking.
terrified ever since.
You're checking in every goddamn stew you eat for sure. You're
You are.
fishing around there, making sure there's not any little extra appendages in there because you don't want to munch because ghosts hate when you eat their body
They
parts.
do, and they're looking for blood.
Oh yeah, but
I don't know that one.
wow, that was weird.
Speaking of ghosts,
Was that yeah? That was
yeah, that was strange. Very strange.
no one said
No one
anything
said
about it.
anything, so
Yeah, so Tommy gets drugged, and he gets drugged like into the wall, like you said. I like it too because it's like, I mean, where the fuck did he go?
Mhm.
I mean, he's gone. There's no real evidence of where he went or anything. But Stella
yeah,
and
they
Ramon,
they realize that he's dead. They run over there and they move
Yeah.
the bed and they see that it's fingernail marks until just right up to the door
yep, and they realize that they're fucking next.
or right up to the wall.
Yeah,
excuse
right.
me.
Yeah, that's the crazy. Yeah, the finger marks go straight to the wall, so
Mhm.
he just got drugged into the wall. So there's not much you can do, not much investigation there. But yeah, and then they figure out that they're next, so they're freaking out, and they all meet up. They try to burn the book. It never works.
No, it doesn't.
When a book is written in blood and cursed, you can almost guarantee
It's
that
the
fire.
number one rule of any sort of like satanic
Yeah.
or witchcraft of any sort. You cannot burn the book.
Uh-huh.
You can't burn the Ouija board. You can't do it.
No.
'Cause
You
it's not
can't
gonna
burn the Necromonicon from the Evil Dead.
Yes, can't do that
Never
either.
works.
No,
Never
it doesn't.
works. But while all this is going on, Chuck's sister Ruth discovers she's got a little spider bite on her cheek.
Well, originally she thinks it's a pimple, and she's got her.
She's got the big.
she's got her
play.
solo.
It's
Yeah.
the big 1968. What play were they doing?
Oh, I don't
I
remember.
can't remember. It's a classic play that every school does, especially back then. But yeah, she gets she has a little red spot, aka that's the store. That's the title of the book. But she has a little red spot on her cheek, and it starts to grow and grow, and it's disgusting. Again,
It
great
is.
work of practical effects because the way it looks like a giant fucking disgusting boil or something. It's horrible.
One of those giant zit videos.
Yeah, it really does. One like the fake ones you see. But
Well, and then we see a little piece of hair coming out of it, or what we
Yeah,
think is a
it's not
hair.
hair, no.
It's not a hair because she touches it, and it starts to move like a leg.
Yeah.
And that's when you know she's in trouble.
And even this one, I'm not super scared of spiders, but they did it in a way where there's spiders crawling out of my face. I'm not a fan.
No, neither.
And
am
not even that, but the spiders, because eventually it gets so big, and it does, and it's fucking horrifying. But the spiders split her goddamn face open, and not even that, but the spiders that are being hatched start biting her.
They're biting her constantly. Yeah. If she's lucky, because if it wasn't for frickin' Stella and whatever, it would be a problem.
Yeah, and this one they get to her, and then this one they kind of figure out that if they get to him, they might be able to save him. You know,
Yes.
if you get to someone,
can
you
save
might
him
you
in
might be able to
time.
intervene and save him, but because they do end up saving Ruth, but she's probably worse off for it. Ruth,
yeah,
you
I
probably-
think at that point you were like, she's in a psych ward the rest of her life.
Yeah, because she is not. She didn't like spiders in the first place, and that would just ruin a lady.
Well, and even her brother Chuck was like, yeah, no, she's dead. She's gone.
Yeah, I know.
No, she's not gone yet. She goes, but she will be in a psych ward.
And
her whole life.
that scene was very good because it was very real. I mean, it was sad because she went crazy. I mean, she went nuts. The way they found her in the bathroom and the way they were going around because they didn't know which bathroom because the story only said the bathroom. So they were going around the bathroom. The way they found her in the dark.
Yeah, they found her on the second floor
crawling
too.
At her face. Yeah. No, they found her in the last goddamn bathroom.
I know, possible in the school.
But yeah. So at this time, things are really hitting the fan. It's not looking good for these kids.
No,
There's no way to stop this book because they try to rip up the book too as the stories are being wrote, and it doesn't work either.
No,
you're not stopping
because they keep ripping, and the story keeps getting wrote on the page, on the new page that they're ripping. So,
but they end up figuring out that they need to know because it's a fucking ticking time bomb. They only have till tonight, till the last of the one.
Not a lot of time to save yourself.
No. So they're all trying to do research about Sarah Bellows because there's not a lot on her. Because we end up finding out the family was just fucking.
And a lot of folk tales about her too.
Yeah,
but
and
no
picture.
Real, clear, concise evidence.
And not a picture of her at all. The family.
No. It's been completely wiped from the archives because of family.
And they erased every picture, every family photo, and everything. Because they wanted to completely erase that she ever existed.
Yeah.
They ended up finding out that they ended up putting her into a psych ward that her brother was in charge of. And her brother was just as
psycho. He
was
gave
just
her
like the rest of them.
electroshock therapy. He tortured her.
And the scene of them getting the whatever it is, the phonogram or whatever, I thought was really fucking good. Again, a pretty heavy movie for a movie that kind of should be a kid's movie.
Yeah, for sure.
With her screaming about the shock therapy.
Well, yeah, and that was pretty. Even then, I was like, I felt very uneasy during.
Yeah, uncomfortable.
Like, man, this is torture. This is not okay.
Yeah.
And then you think about 1880s, and you go, oh my God, those crazy motherfuckers. What were they? What sort of experiments were they doing?
No, the
her?
one place you did not want to be was in a psych ward in any time before 1950, I think. Because they just locked away everyone, treated you like shit. There's no one checking in on those people.
In a lot of ways, it was torture too.
Yeah,
some of the shit they were.
It's
doing.
what they do in this. People used to send like, oh, you got like a lesbian sister, send her
to the psych ward
and lock her away and forget about her because that's what happened. These people will be locked away and then you can completely forget about them.
Then you can experiment on them and do crazy things.
Oh
to
yeah,
them.
and sexually assault them.
Yeah, and then fuck them up even more
because no one's gonna listen to them because they're crazy.
Yep,
they're just a bunch of goddamn crazy. But yeah, this was when the grandma in my theater was getting real uncomfortable. I could tell she was not having such a good time. Her grandkids definitely tricked her into seeing this movie, but yeah, so they find out that because when they're hearing the recording, it's the only recording of Sarah ever, and no one's ever heard her voice. But it's her saying that she did not kill those kids.
Yep.
Because the whole town blames her for killing those kids. They think that she fucking ghosted them or did some. Well, they think she's a witch, right?
Yeah.
Thinks he put a spell on her or some shit. But she's in the recording as she's getting electrocuted. She's crying, and it's even heavier because it's her goddamn brother that's doing
the torturing. Yeah,
but yeah, and while this is happening though, because the recording was in what the psychiatric hospital that's still open in the 60s, the same one that was open in the 1800s, they called the Red Room. So, and Chuck didn't want to go into the Red Room because he had the vision of the old lady. And it wasn't even really a red room. It was actually just an anagram for records.
Yeah.
But he wasn't going anywhere near the red room. Nope. And big fucking mistake because the red room's coming to you.
I know, because immediately after that, I'm like, man, you know what's going to happen when you're by yourself.
And if I know there's a book, I'm like, I'm not leaving my friends. I'm not being alone.
Together. I'm never splitting up. I'll never split up. Doesn't matter. Never, no. We're all dying together, motherfucker. I'm not dying alone.
Exactly.
It's not going to happen.
But again, it's like with the book knows when you're alone and everything. It doesn't, because it wasn't even because it was during the day when they took fucking Chuck. It wasn't even at night. But, yeah, so the books, it starts getting written, and this is when we get the pale lady, and I agree with you. I thought this was the creepiest scene to me. It was just fucking, how it was done was really...
It was awesome.
And how scary, and how they did it were like, at first you see the lady, and she's super far back, so you can't really get a good eye on her. You just see she's just like this this white outline, and she just has these black, like, dead eyes, and you can't really tell what she's going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
And she inches forward slowly, very, very slowly.
And during this whole time, Chuck's going from, he's running down the same hallway, but the other way. She's still there. He's running through different doors. She's still there, but still the same distance.
That's what I like too.
Walking
Yeah,
closer. But he's
she's never
going to
been closer,
different rooms. The continuity was so good with this because it felt like one step. Even going into different rooms and stuff, it felt like she never lost a step.
Yeah, it was all real time, like tracking where she was. Like you could as soon as it shows where she is, like 20 yards away, you know how much time you have. Like you as an audience know how much time he has until he's fucked.
Oh God! Even just thinking about that scene, man, it was so creepy.
It was
'cause
really
you
well
have
done.
those sort of dreams with those weird creatures and like you're running and it doesn't matter where you go.
Yeah, or
Just
where you
constantly
can't
creeping
run or what? Yeah, or anything. You can't get away ever.
I loved it. It was nightmare fuel, man.
It was because it was cool how they started doing it because it wasn't super evident right at the start that she was going to be everywhere. Because he saw her once and then he turns around, starts running, and he runs for a while and then he sees her again. And he's like, okay, well, this is not going to work. So he goes back, runs another way, still running for a while. Then he sees her again. Then he starts another way and then he starts going to the bathroom and like all kinds of rooms. And she's there. She's in every fucking room. And eventually it gets to where he's ran every option of every hall, and she just slowly fucking
Engulfs him.
like a snail's pace running in, and she's not like yelling or anything, but just how they
She's even smiling too, which was
smiling, but it's not. It's like her
It's
head.
not like
it's
a
like
real
a cartoon.
smile, yeah.
She's like cut in half. But yeah, it was horrifying, and the way that she just engulfs him at the end was very fucking scary. I agree. It was probably my favorite scene of the entire movie.
And man, the adaptation looked spot
I know, it
on,
looks amazing,
too.
doesn't it?
Yeah, he did a really good job of bringing the book to life.
Yeah,
with this, I mean, it looks almost identical in a lot of ways.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, it's perfect, man. And it's just, of course, when you got it, I mean, because you can't get scarier than that. So why not make an exact?
So why not just
yeah, I know.
exact replica?
These books, and that's what I love is they didn't change. I mean, they kept what needed to be kept, and that's a big thing because this is one of the best. This is one of the better adaptions of a book for sure. Crazy,
unquestionably.
Yeah,
I was so happy with this.
Yeah, but yeah, they didn't change much from her. I mean, she's pretty much as scary as you can get. But yeah. So Chuck is gone.
He's no longer with us.
He died a horrible death, I would say. He was engulfed. He got hugged to death. And the lady's voice, we should talk about it too. It was like the softness to it. And because the whole thing she kept telling him, because while she's moving in, she kept saying something like "get out" or something. What was it? It was along the lines of, because in the book of the Pale, it's a warning that she keeps giving, but you can't really get out when she's fucking suffocating you. It's hard to do. And but yeah. Chuck's dead, Augie's dead,
Yep.
Tommy's dead, Ramon and Stella are left. Now they're really freaking out because they know now you got a 50-50. And Stella's hoping it's Ramon. You know Ramon's hoping
it's Stella, so
please.
Things are about to get awkward.
Yeah, please, they're just dying to know. But eventually they do get kicked out because they're not supposed to be in the psych ward at all.
No, they got
Eventually
caught.
kicked out. Yeah.
And police show up.
Yeah. And Chuck is just fucking gone. I mean, they can't even, because, they weren't supposed to be in there in the first place. And all the guys were like, what happened to your friend? And
they
don't really,
it.
yeah. Well, they
No.
just explained that he was in the book, but no one's going to believe him. But, yeah. Oh, yeah. And the cops, do the cops end up arresting him here?
Yep. And then Stella calls her dad and says, "I love you. I'm not going to come home." And he's like, "What do you mean? What do you mean? I love you, Dad. Bye."
Yeah, and it was really good acting, man.
It actually was a great scene. Well, and that guy's the girl's a really good actress.
Yeah,
but,
and the guy's in a ton of stuff.
He was in Breaking Bad, too.
Yeah. But again, it's like it wasn't a scene I was expecting out of this movie at all. I didn't expect it to go that deep with, the mother abandoning him, and the dad obviously being distraught, I mean, it was good. It was scary, but it did good with that drama stuff as well. And it kind of made it, I don't know, it kind of made the movie more deep, because you knew not only are they dealing with these monsters, but they're also dealing with kind of a real monster at home.
Exactly, and to have that sort of depth of like knowing who a character is while also being
Yeah,
a horror
exactly, yeah.
film is a really unique thing. I'd
Well, it's
say
something
in
you
the
just don't
genre.
expect to have like a kid's adaptation. Again, you know, I was thinking it was just going to be like thrown together like. I'm like any other adaptation of a kid's book or anything. It's almost always a cash grab, but you could tell they took their time with this one for
They
sure.
did.
But yeah, they end up getting arrested and they end up throwing both of them in jail cells because Stella doesn't even tell her dad to come get him.
Nope.
Because there's no real point. She's gonna end up dying.
She's
anyways.
gonna die, and she knows it.
But the chief, the police chief, he puts them in separate cells, and we get our next story, man. The chief, he's reading the book. Of course, he's not believing that the book is, but the book starts writing, and this was.
And the dog starts growling.
I do.
At the fire pit.
And is there anything scarier than a dog growling and nothing? Have you ever had that?
Yes, I have.
Yeah,
My dog's
so
done it before.
So fine.
And I'm like, yo, what?
It is
like
this-
literally at like 1 a.m. and
When
I'm
they're
like,
they're
"What
just
are
start
you
growling at like the
doing?"
corner of the wall or
Yes.
something, and you're like, oh my god, because there's something there. How it feels like there's something there. But yeah, that's what happens. The dog starts growling just at the empty fireplace, and the police chief, he's pretty fucking scared, and
The first thing that falls is a nice giant head, and he
Just
literally
horrifying.
goes, "What the fuck?"
and
is
this head that
hilarious,
starts
but-
yelling at him. He starts yelling
I
these
know.
crazy things you can't even really understand. But
I thought he was observing this whole thing a little too long, though. I'd figured, man, the first thing I do is try to get those kids out. Doesn't matter how like crazy I think it is. He just watched the whole thing take place.
Well, you kind of, I mean, you gotta kind of like, you don't, you're kind of in shock. I mean, a head just fell out of your goddamn fireplace. You're kind of thinking like, is this real? Am I in real life? And this head's not only, this head is yelling at me. So
Yeah,
you're
but
kind of thinking, is someone messing with me? Someone throwing a head? But, I mean, it's gonna take some time to connect. Like, what should I be doing? He actually reacts faster than I thought with pulling the gun out.
Yeah, that's true.
I would be gone.
What does he say? Fuck you or something? And he shoots the head like 5 times.
Yeah, and he loads the. I mean, but it's not that kind of monster.
No, it's not. You can't kill it doing that. I mean, good shot.
Yeah,
I think he hit it every time, but
and yeah, and it was he kept yelling at something, and eventually the rest of the pieces fall, which is nice.
yeah, it does.
Because he's
And-
not
and
just
he is
a-
assembled like a Lego.
But he assembles it not right. I feel like he didn't get the directions
Not
right.
a very good craftsman.
It was
let's
like
put it that way.
Kia's assembly where you're just throwing pieces together.
There were no directions. I mean, it's a tough gig trying to put yourself together like that, trying to pick up the pieces.
But crazy, and I love this one.
And the jangly man literally just
This one really felt like a Guillermo monster to me,
Mhm.
where the way he moved, it felt like that kind of weird monster movement because it was cool because well, for one, the jangly man, he's like twisted backwards, right? His head's twisted and he's running
and he
with
walks
his
on all fours.
but then he'll fold and he'll do like some weird like the somersault where he doesn't look like he's bones. He doesn't walk like a person. I don't know
Yeah.
what he is. I don't know why he walks the way. It seems like it'd be more efficient to walk like a normal person.
Yeah, I would say you could be fast, but he ran pretty good speed. He caught up to that car.
The way when he was crawling on all fours, going fucking fast, that shit scares me.
Anyone.
It's him running like a goddamn horse on all fours, and when he's running after the car,
I know.
things that run quick, like monsters that run quick, scare me. It
Yeah.
scare the shit out of me. I don't know what it. And things that run on all fours, but he wasn't running like he wasn't doing a bear crawl. He was doing a crab walk, which is more
Very
difficult.
yeah, very well developed muscles in those legs. To be
Oh
able to do
man,
that.
he was
I couldn't
moving. He was
believe
going
it.
like 30 miles an hour. But the Jangly Man, the story is about Ramon though. He's not after Stella. The Jangly Man's after Ramon, and the
And
Jangly
that's
Man,
why he takes the car and he tells Stella to go and tell the truth.
and that's after the Jangly Man snaps the fucking
The
neck.
sheriff's neck.
So
yeah.
it's also the point where like the stories they don't only have to kill who they're about. If you get in their way, they'll also
They'll
fucking
kill you.
you.
Yeah, they don't care who you are.
Yeah.
So stay the fuck out of the way.
But snaps the fucking neck of the police chief pretty fucking violently.
Yeah.
And
Severe break.
and Ramon and Stella, they're in the cage, so they're just, and the Jangly Man, he eventually fucking
Just
slinks over like a goddamn slinky.
after tossing the body into the cell too, which I didn't know why he did that.
No, but I like the jangling man coming through the cell was very fucking
it was
scary.
tense too.
Because you're thinking, how's this guy gonna get through? Oh, he's got fucking
I thought he
rubber
was just
skin.
gonna bend the bars.
No, he's coming in the hard way. But eventually he squeezes himself into. Well, it's not even. I love when they run away because eventually they get out, they get the keys, but he's like halfway stuck.
Half in, yeah. So he's like, "Fuck!"
He's like,
now
shit,
gotta
I
get
made a
out."
mistake.
Yeah, he's like, this was not the best decision.
But yeah, he eventually gets out though, and Ramon, he's like, the monster's after me. Let's split up. Classic. Splits up, and he does. He gets in the car, and you're thinking, if I'm Ramon, I'm just driving. I'm just going. I'm not thinking of Stella. I'm just driving down to the nearest goddamn city. I'm keeping going. But he eventually runs over the goddamn jangly man. Hits him pretty good.
He does. Gives him the old rundown.
Yeah, pins him against another car, but that's not enough for the jangly man. And
that was a cool scene too when he just disassembles.
That was cool. I like that.
And then
a lot,
reassembles
too.
again.
Because it made it more real when he couldn't get out the first time he was trying to get out, and then he just goes kind of limp, and all his body parts fall apart, and ends up connecting. But it all ends up coming back to the house. Well, they find out. Stella ends up finding out that. Well, she finds out through because Stella gets transported back to the house, and like back in time, and she's Sarah Bellows when she gets transported back, right? And it's another kind of scary scene because when she's transported back, she's Sarah, but in this, Sarah has escaped her room, so the whole family is
looking for her.
But it's like they're having fun looking for her. It's like a game.
Oh yeah, it's
they're
like
all
a
like
sick
they're like
game
let's
to all of
fucking
them.
get her, and they're all got their belts out ready to beat the shit out of her. I guess.
I guess so.
Horrible.
They really did not like their sister.
And even the grandma was like, "Let's round
she
it
was
up."
in on it, yeah.
This whole fucking family hated her, man. But we end up finding out why they end up hating her. Right? She goes back and they end up finding that the real reason that these kids were actually dying was the mill was poisoning the water supply, and the family, we end up finding the big twist is the family hated Sarah because she was trying to tell the truth, and it would have ruined the family if they ended up poisoning.
It would have ruined the business, would have ruined everything they had worked for.
So they ended up making up these stories that she was crazy, and they ended up locking her away, and the whole reason was because she was going to end up ruining the family, and that's how those kids died, and they blamed the death on her. What a shitty family this was.
God. Worst luck of the draw to have that family.
No, I don't understand. You can't imagine a worse family. You can't imagine a family that cares less about their family.
Their daughter, yeah.
But so that's the whole thing is they end up locking her away because she was gonna say, and that's how it became. Sarah likes to tell stories. Really, she wasn't telling the story; she was telling the truth.
Right.
And it's the whole kind of thing how all these stories they're all kind of based in reality, and that's kind of the message here. But they end up going and they end up finding, and she ends up going back down. Stella ends up finally going back down to Sarah's room, and Sarah shows up. She's also pretty fucking scary. But Sarah is right about to kill Stella. But Stella says,
"Hey, I know your shit was tough.
Yeah, basically.
But you're still responsible for your actions, so quit being a bitch."
Exactly. It was the whole thing was like, don't become the monster that they made you out to become. Because everyone was saying that you were this murderous person, so don't become that. Sarah takes a hard, long look at herself and was like, the bitch is right.
At the end of the day, I've been kind of a cunt. I gotta stop this
shit I've been doing has been hell week. I've been an asshole. This is she's like, I gotta take a look.
It wasn't my best week.
But yeah, because Sarah was pissed. Let's make that clear.
To be fair.
Yeah, she was mad, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
But she was taking it out on the wrong people.
The wrong people, come on.
Because we ended up finding out that Sarah...
Go desecrate a grave. Don't kill other people.
Well, not even that, because we ended up finding out that Sarah ended up killing all of her family anyways.
Yeah, so she won in the end anyway, so she's just bitter.
Because we find out that all the family ended up just disappearing, but they didn't end up really disappearing. Sarah just wrote stories for all of them, because going back through the book, because Ephraim was one of the stories, and those were all her family member. So she ended up killing all of them anyways. Oh, yeah. But they deserved it. For sure,
every single one of them
I would say for sure. But Yeah, and Ramon ends up living. Ramon ends up getting away from the jangling man. That's a whole scene that we didn't really talk about, but also a very scary scene when he's hiding from the jangling man. And I like the scene where Stella was like back in time and Ramon was in regular time, but they were still connected.
Yes.
When she dropped her glasses and
Could
whatnot.
faintly hear her.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
That was cool.
Yeah, but and the book ends up. Well, the book ends up. Sarah forces Stella to write because Stella ends up writing her own story about Sarah, and that was the big thing. Is now she gets to tell Sarah's story finally, because no one ever got to tell her story. And when she does this, the jangling man disappears, and Ramon is safe. But I mean, some losses. Stella's got no friends now.
There's still a KIA list.
I know, and they still got some explaining to do for sure. I mean,
a lot of people just randomly disappeared.
The chief died, and
that's
they
what I
were
was
the
gonna
only
say.
ones.
The police chief has got his neck snapped in half.
Yeah, and
A
last
severe break.
everyone knows was they were there, and then they end up leaving the jail. So
Still got a lot
it's
to
not
answer
looking
for.
good.
No, it's not.
It's not looking. Oh, and we forgot to mention that the whole reason Ramon was actually like on the run was he was drafting the dot, or he was dodging the draft.
Yeah.
He didn't want to go, which.
But in the end, he goes.
And it ends. Yeah, because eventually I think he thinks it's gonna catch up to him, just like these fucking stories are gonna catch up to him.
It's
And
like, well, fuck. If that wasn't a sign, I don't know what is. I'm ready to die.
after that, I'd rather be in fucking Vietnam
He's
than
like,
be
on second thought, the jungles, malaria, all that shit.
biggest
sure, let's do
mistake of his life was rolling into that goddamn town and having those kids jump into his car. Not only does he have to go to Vietnam now, but he had to live through all that bullshit
and survive it. Be traumatized his whole life.
Yeah, and I was wondering the entire time, right as I found out that he was a draft dodger, I was wondering how they're gonna go about the romance, because they're definitely building a romantic relationship between Stella
and Ramon.
Yeah,
definitely.
but Stella was what, 16?
Yeah.
And Ramon was an adult, so I'm like, how are they gonna? But they didn't end up kissing or anything, so
No, they're friends.
yeah, just good friends, I guess. But you think in the '60s. You think in the 60s I would have stopped old Ramon?
No, I don't think it would have. No.
People were getting married when they were 13.
Yeah,
I mean, are you
crazy
kidding me?
in some states.
Oh, yeah, for sure, man. But, Ramon finally enlists in the army, and Stella, with a book in her possession, sets out with her father.
And Ruth, she's out of the psych ward. Yay!
Yeah, thank
she's
God.
no longer crazy.
Too bad her brother's dead.
Yeah, that's true. that's unfortunate circumstance.
Yeah, that's a tough one for sure. Tough one to explain to your mom. But
for sure.
But yeah, they end up going, and they end up kind of setting it up for a sequel, I think.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
With her trying to explain that she's got to get to the bottom of this and whatnot. I don't know how, because I don't know who's going to be I don't know what stories could be written if Sarah's all good now, so I don't know how they could do a sequel, but I feel like they left it open for one.
Yeah. When there could still be more stories, one way or another.
I know, but you got to give her a reason of why the stories are getting written, because the story's being written this
Yeah, good
one
point.
because Sarah was pissed, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole premise of this one. But yeah, what'd you think, Mason? What
Man,
did you think?
I gotta say, I was pleasantly surprised with this movie. I all
Same.
around really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good, scary film that, again, wasn't like super gory or anything. There wasn't a lot of F-bombs. It wasn't like a gritty horror film, but it was a great, traditionally good sounding horror film. You could see Guillermo del Toro's fingers in this whole thing. Really great acting job. The monsters look fantastic. I don't know, on just so many different levels this movie hit for me, man. I was very pleasantly surprised with this. And for me, I gave, are we going to grade?
Yeah, let's do it.
For me, I gave this I don't have a lot to gripe about it. As far as a horror film, I got to give this an A-, man. I liked it. I thought it was really well done. And I teetered between B+ and A-, but I can't justify giving it a B+.
Yeah.
I mean, besides the one cringeworthy line, but I mean, everything else just hit for me. I thought this was a really well-made movie.
Yeah. Well, this movie surprised me on so many different levels because not only is it an actually good movie, but it's a good horror movie, and it's PG-13. When 90% of the horror movies that come out nowadays, at least in my opinion, even though they're rated R, are not good. I mean, they're scary, but they rely on cheap thrills. Where this one just seemed like they actually took their time. It seemed like they actually care about it, which was surprising with me because again, it was surprising that that they cared so much about this children's story and how it was a children's story. On top of that, it also had to be scary and but they really pushed the envelope with the PG-13 rating, I feel like.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, this movie proves that it doesn't have to be rated R to be scary.
No.
You don't need blood.
You just have to do a good job with it.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's not about using a ton of blood and gore. It's just about make a good movie first. And if it just happens to be scary with that, then there you go, and it's on top of that. But make a good movie first, and that's what they focus on. I think was
Definitely.
making a good movie first, and the scares were there. I mean, with the concept material and stuff, you didn't have to do a lot for it to be scary. You just had to piece it all together and make sure you had good acting and not. But yeah, I loved it, man. Again, my biggest gripe was that it came out August 9th. Because this,
I know,
100%. This movie is just
this
wrapped
been a
in horror
great
film, man.
Would have been a great film to have early October, maybe late September.
Oh, absolutely, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, I loved it. I was, again, just pleasantly surprised with this how good it actually was.
Yeah.
I mean, I was really worried about. I give it a B+. I'm gonna give it, which is a great fucking grade.
Yeah, it is.
I would never have predicted I would have liked this movie nearly as much as I did.
Yeah, especially again with the whole PG-13 thing too. The fact that we gave it such a high grade.
Yeah,
They
and
did
it
a
being
great job.
and it being a horror film, it's just the cards were stacked against this film, but it ended up
Prevailing.
pulling it off, man. Good job, Guillermo, and good job, Andre Overdahl.
Yeah.
Who did a great fucking job. But yeah, man, this is a movie I'm gonna watch every year.
Yeah, I think so too. This definitely has rewatchability. For
Yeah,
me.
this is a movie that when October ends up rolling around and really gets into it, and we're really into it, and I'm gonna be craving this movie. It's probably not gonna be in theaters anymore,
No, it won't be.
especially
But
with
we'll have
everything
plenty
that
in
coming out.
September
Yeah,
and October. Yeah.
but this is a film that I can't wait to watch next year. Even
It'll be great.
watch it on DVD. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. Well, all right.
Alrighty. You guys can be sure if you're on YouTube watching this, be sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel. You can type in Have You Seen It? Have You Seen a Podcast? We're the Angry Popcorn Guy on YouTube. You can find our podcast in audio format on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify. Social medias, Have You Seen It on Instagram, Seen It Podcast on Twitter. Cash is on Twitter. That's just Cash. I think that's it. So my name's Mason Knight. That is Cash Kraus. And until next time.
Bye.